Hello, dear friends in Ukraine. My name is Bojana Dujkovic and I am from Banja Luka, Bosnia and Herzegovina, currently working for European Vergeland Center, where many of your fellows Ukrainians are working. When this war has started, we've been discussing a lot within the team, what we can do and how we can support you. I cannot do much, but what I can do is to share with you my experiences from the war in Bosnia. Today with me is my friend and colleague.
My name is Melisa Foric. I come from Sarajevo, Bosnia and Herzegovina.
We are both history teachers and historians and very active in History Teachers Network. And today we have a message to our colleagues, history teachers in Ukraine. We have been cooperating with some of you for years now on, and we know that Ukraine has a lot of very good and skillful teachers in history. But today we have important message for you is that we are very much aware of the all fake news and use and misuse of history in understanding and explaining today's conflict and war in Ukraine.
In this challenging time, it is really necessary to stay professional, in my opinion, and also to have a healthy sense of what is going on around us. Always to have in mind the responsibility of the messages that you are sending to the students.
We're very much aware that you are professionals. You have the knowledge and skills that can transfer to your students and helping them to understand what is going on. Melisa and I are cooperating almost for 20 years now. We are coming from different entities in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Melisa has experienced what it means to be a child during the war in siege of Sarajevo. I have experienced from the other side. But we really want to share with you what it means for us to work jointly on developing lessons unit, work plans in sensitive and controversial history. We started cooperating in 2003, and it was very challenging to start working together, to choose the topics, and to find the right angle to explain recent history. And we can share with you that it took almost 20 years since we being able to start developing lessons and thinking how to teach about the war in Bosnia from 1992 to 1995. When the war started in Bosnia, I was 15 years old and I was in the first year of gymnasium. My school year break down in April when it was 1991, when it was over in a second practically decided by my parents that my sister and I should go to Belgrade, to my aunt, until the situation in my hometown Doboj is clear. It was agreed that we will remain there maximum 15 days and we will be back home by May 1st. That May 1st didn't came on the May 1st. We stayed in Belgrade until the end of the October. In my hometown Doboj, the war started on May the 2nd, and immediately all the communications was breakdown. And until September, we had no news from my mother and my father there. In that time, my father was working in the police as an inspector, and we could assume that he's engaged in war somehow. Being refugee in Belgrade was strange and difficult experiences. I didn't start the school because it was agreed that those students who came from Bosnia in April will get the certificates for the finalization of the grades they have been enrolled before the war, and then if they do not return home, they will start schooling in September 1st. all the feelings were mixed, and it was very difficult to adapt. In that time, we had no social media. Actually, that was before internet. And the way we could find out about friends and family was one main square in Belgrade, in the city center, where all of us refugees were gathering in the evenings and discussing what we have heard. Any news were spread there. So it was like in the ancient time. Uh, Me and my sister are back home on October, when it was the main road and communications between Serbia and Bosnia were opened. Even though my hometown Doboj was under the constant combat and exchange of the grenades and fire shots and everything until the end of the war in 1995. But my family, mother and father, decided that the family should be together, even in that difficult circumstances. I was back in October in 1992. The school has started already in November. I can share with you my experiences, why it is important to start schooling, how that can be uh, relieving to your students. I remember in November 1992, we had no electricity. The water system was damaged, and we didn't have normally water supply, so we had to wait in the lines for the water for some time. But the schools were open, and we were going there. Even the classes were reduced to 30 minutes because it was very cold. We didn't have any heating. But we kind of adapted to it because school was old and had the chimneys. And then the school authorities find uh, great fireplaces, like a stove that we could heat. And I remember we were going to school, bringing each student was bringing one or two pieces of food, and then the cleaning ladies were setting the fire for us. I also remember how my grandmother was prepared a special pillow for me that I was bringing in school so I could sit on it because the chairs were very close, and even I had the special gloves. Uh, for that could allow that allows me to write. Uh, Even the situation was very difficult. When I left the school in April, in my generation there were 180 students. 6 months after, when the school was started again, we've been less than 50. So all the others left, but also many new students came from another areas, because in that time it was almost like normal that people, different nationalities, were changing the places of living, going where their nationality was in major and so on. I was missing my old friends, but also it was a nice experience meeting a new ones. During that time, I remember going out. My parents really didn't allow us to stay outside in the evening, and during winter it was dark and there were no electricity and the streets were very dark and they didn't let us to go. But we managed to have like gatherings in houses with different friends, and every time to visit the other girl, and that was very nice, really. And the whole schooling process was very challenging. Uh, I remember we didn't have all the teachers for all the subjects, but because most of them, male, were active as a soldiers. So 15 days they will be on the front, and then 10 days they will be teachers in the school and so on. But I remember how they tried to comfort us and keep the teaching process as normal as possible. We didn't have all the textbooks. What we had were the notebooks, and we really take the copying the lessons. And I remember that those teachers was really trying their best, because for me as a student, this fact that I supposed to go every morning in the school was connection to the normality, was connection with my old life. And that was important for me. I had some obligations every day to go to school, to do the homework, to read the lessons, and then even to gain the 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 the, the grades. And in that time, my grades were very good, even though it was we had every excuse not to read, not to study, and but I remember that all kids in my generation were working very hard. Almost on the end of the war, situation was improved a bit. We had like normal classes of 45 minutes, even though in my hometown very often uh, they have been grenading a lot. And I remember the fear of the teachers who had the great responsibility when they supposed to decided what to do it. Are they going to keep students in the schools during the grenading, or they will send us out to go home? And now being a parent, I can understand how difficult decisions that was. But one thing was common, we were all dedicated to keep the normality, and the school was that normality. Why is that important? I remember in the spring 1995 when NATO forces were airstriking and bombing my hometown around the surroundings. In that time, I was preparing my Matura test and I was doing the math, and it was difficult and I didn't like it. But uh, I remember in that time during the heavy bombings, we were just observing that, move to a basement for half an hour, and after that, I was back to my desk and continue with the preparation of my Matura, because in that horrible time and horrible circumstances, doing what I was best off, and that was being a good student and helping my parents with that was the best thing I could do for them and for myself.
Come from Sarajevo, and I would like to share some of my experiences to be a teenager during the war. 30 years ago, the biggest siege in modern human history happened in Sarajevo from 1992 to 1994. And during that time, I was the teenager who actually finished elementary and started primary school. For us, it was really important in these abnormal conditions to have at least some kind of sense of normal life. During that time, actually, the school was organized first in the basements, in the shelters, and later on we returned to the school buildings, even though that those school buildings were not so safe place. So sometimes during the shelling and bombing, we were actually having our classes in the hallways where was safe. And that was kind of our contribution to the whole thing. I remember our teachers were keep telling us, this is your part of the struggle. This is how you fight, by your knowledge. And it is so important that you read, that you learn, that you are actually, that for you, life doesn't stop. You continue to live and you continue to educate. And this for children of Sarajevo, I think, even though it was very dangerous to go to school every day, to pass the points where sniper was shooting, still we had this kind of joy to go to school and to meet our friends there, and pretend that nothing around us is going on, but we have a normal life, to go to school, also to go to the theater, to go to the concerts that were taking a part in some safe buildings or safe cinema buildings, rooms, etc. So just a message from Sarajevo, how important life for us was, and how important school system, because I think during that time our teachers taught us so many values, so many, how the small things matters, how peace matters, how to help others, how to raise the issue of solidarity where you have nothing. I remember we went to school, on the school windows were folium and nylons. We were sitting in our jackets with hats on because it was so cold. There was no electricity or heating. Also, the food supplies were very short. But still, I think we were happy to go to school and to actually have opportunity to make new friends, to live sort of normal life. And that completely changed us as a persons, and many lessons that I learned during that time I'm trying to pass on to my students.
That's why my message to you is, do the best you can. If you are a teacher, go be a teacher, because that's the whole process. Keeping your mind busy with something you can do the best of is the only good thing you can do now. Another message I want to share with you, in horrible circumstances when you are now, it's just the fact that one day this war will be over and you will continue with your life. The houses will be renewed, the people will be back, and you will have a great experiences to share. Until then, I just want to share with you the fact that you are not alone. This bloody war will stop one moment. Until then, keep up the good faith and be a brilliant teachers and help your students to grow even in this difficult circumstance. I can share my personal experience that this is extremely difficult and painful. And that's why we want to share a message today with you, why it's important to keep the sources. You are going to need it in the times to come.
Yeah, if I may add something, we now collecting the materials and sources in this development of the new teaching material. We found out how personal stories and oral history is very, very important. And reflection about the war, this immediate, when the war is going on around us, they are the ultimate sources that can be used in the classrooms tomorrow. So my advice would be, collect everything you can as a historians, as a teachers, but also encourage students to collect things, to write their diaries. That can be also a way how they can deal with the trauma. And also later on, that trauma can be easily resolved or overcome, whatever. But tomorrow, their diaries, their thoughts, their mini videos, if they can make them, can become a very important sources for the history teaching and perception of the war in Ukraine. So of course, these mini exhibitions that you can organize in your virtual or real world of classroom can also be a good encouragement for the projects that are going on, writing the students' assignments or their creative work can also help them with the trauma, and also they can feel useful in this whole situation.
Very soon, you have to think about the future, because this war will stop. One day you will get back to your normal lives, even though it might not look like this to you in this moment, but it will be over. And once you are back to your normal old lives, you will start thinking how you can teach about this. And this is the moment when you are going to need the sources. We are aware very much that Ukraine has a lot of wonderful and very skillful teachers. And we want to encourage you just to be aware that there is a whole network of teachers on European level willing to share and help. But when this war is over, you teachers from Ukraine and us from Bosnia and Herzegovina and Croatia will be the only one that really lived through the conflict. And we are the ones to have skills and know how to present it to our future students. So my message is be brave and keep up the good work and do the best you can right now, because you are not alone and this will be over, hopefully very soon in the days to come.
Yeah, my message is also in the same direction. Stay strong, stay professional, stay along with your work, because this is connection with the normal life. Dream about peace, work with your students on peace, and eventually, and I hope very soon, the world will end and maybe we see each other in person and maybe we work together. Thank you.
Thank you, Melisa. I will just add that our colleagues from European Vergeland Center do have our contacts. So feel free to text us, to email us if you think that we can help anyhow, only if you just need someone to talk. We are there to support you. Good luck.
Good luck.